Will Guyatt, Talk's technology correspondent, is with us. Afternoon to you, Will.
Technology crosses over into absolutely every story these days.
Indeed. And who would have thought that... we were going to talk anyway about how political parties are dealing with social media. I know this week there was a deep fake of David Cameron, had a whole conversation with a man who he thought... I'd forgotten about this, actually. You and I... In fact, I didn't even mention it to Chris, our producer. David Cameron had a whole conversation with a man he thought was the former president of Ukraine. Did you know this, Chris? Entire conversation... He thought it was him before, during, and even afterwards. He went away going, I've just done it, because he knows the guy. He knows the guy really well. Met him a dozen times. Turns out it was deep fake. Turns out it was well, was it deep fake or was it just somebody doing a good impression? I don't know. Somebody got through the various layers of security. But that's where we're kind of at, right, Will?
Yeah, it seems to be that way. And what I don't like about this right now is that there is a bit of a narrative blaming technology for things that people may have done, or AI being used as a proof to there's just an awful lot going on, and what I don't like is my world being thrown around by people who are trying to use it as an excuse or a justification.
Indeed. Well, let's look at one aspect that we certainly didn't think we'd be talking about a few days ago, and that is the campaigner for Nigel Farage, who said that illegal immigrants should be used as target practice, mosques should be turned into Wetherspoon pubs. Rishi Sunak he used the P word, an incredibly offensive racial slur. Now, he's obviously been kicked out and he won't be campaigning for the party. I get all of that. I spoke to David Bull earlier, of course. We know David very well. He is also the deputy leader of Reform. It started out as just undercover filming. It then became a conspiracy theory that actually Channel 4 had hired an actor to say this stuff. Now, quite aside from the amount of effort, not least the risk either, forget about the risk factor, the risk of being rumbled would probably close Channel 4 News, and any journalist involved would be redundant. The actor would be able to have a multi-million-pound lawsuit against Channel 4 for duping him because he thought he was acting in some sort of hidden camera show. So aside from all of that, trying to keep it a secret would have been a non-starter because everyone down the pub would go, well, hang on, that's Mick. We know him, so that it wouldn't work on that respect. So anyway, rather than just go, look, yeah, it was very bad, bad apple. In fact, the guy himself has said, yes, that is me, and I'm sorry, I don't really hold those views. So there's no two ways about it. It is the bloke. But what was interesting is that earlier we spoke to David Bull, and he suggested that Reform UK had used AI to work out whether this was a guy actually putting a voice on. Have a listen to what David said.
Andrew Parker is an actor, okay? We are now in the process of working out, did he put on a fake accent? Was he playing a role? We have put it through AI. There is a 99.9% confidence that this is him, and I believe that he has now said that this is him and that he's an actor. When you compare the voices, the voice he speaks with on his show reel when he's looking for work is a completely different accent to the one that he's using on the doorstep with that terrible inflammatory language.
That may well be true, Will. I don't have any truck in understanding that the guy, when he goes home, like many other people we all meet in life, has one accent for one scenario and one accent for another. I don't know what that tells us, but it was curious that David Bull said that they put it through AI to establish this.
Actors can be Reform Party members and bigots too. It's entirely possible. That's where I wanted to start. If David Bull has found a piece of technology that does this, I urge him to bring it to the table, because we'd all be using it in all kinds of cases. And to tell you, Ian, he's got a 99.9% probability. Isn't that convenient for Mr. Bull?
I don't even know if that's AI, though, is it? Because actually, if you go to the website where the actor sells his wares, he does different voices. He does do, he sounds like a very watered-down version of the one we see, and then he does the, hello, mate, I don't get rid of them all, send them out. He does all of that.
What?
Now, that doesn't really... I don't know what that's meant to prove, the fact that he can do different voices.
No, it proves nothing. And what concerns me most here is that the use of AI has been inserted into this argument like a buzzword. Like, we've tested it. There's nothing they can use. This is not happened. I will happily and gladly come back on this station and apologize repeatedly if Mr. Bull and Reform Party can give me evidence of an AI tool that's given them 99.9% certainty that it's his voice. So throwing around the technology is just another example of getting lost in an argument, in a conversation, in a debate. Well, and the biggest challenge for me on this, Ian, is this is now a narrative that exists and people believe it. And if it's proven to be false, this needs to be the end of the Reform Party, as far as I'm concerned. But if it's proven to be true, you're absolutely right that everybody needs to come down on whoever made this to air on Channel 4. Well, down like a ton of
listen, as you were saying this, David Bull was literally calling my mobile, so it's quite. He might. Well, I mean, he knows I'm on air, so. But maybe it was a maybe he wanted to respond to that. But yes, I don't think it. I think when you say AI, you sort of elevate the. Because people throw that phrase in, AI, as if it somehow authenticates what you've done in a greater way. When actually what you might have done is just compared two voices, which is just technology, really. I've just listened to one voice and then I'll listen to another voice. We think it's the same person.
I don't really want to get involved in whether or not this happened. But if there is an AI tool that I am yet to be aware of that can do this with certainty, I'd love to know about it.
Yeah. Well, let's go to other aspects of the general election. How are different parties doing? And TikTok, well, I mentioned TikTok because, of course, that's the tool that, you know, kids like myself, that's where we frequent. Older ones like you, Will, you love your Facebook, and probably... LinkedIn, I would imagine, is where you have your bingo conversations with mates of an evening. But TikTok is the one that many politicians are desperate to get to because that's where your Gen Zers lurk, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The under 35s is the big market on TikTok. And the other thing, Ian, is you can't pay to get advertising on that platform. So quite a lot of people, political advertising, you can't do on TikTok. So quite a lot of people are hearing their kind of political leanings from influencers and other people on the platform who've got their views on who should be elected. In interest of balance, Reform are doing incredibly well on TikTok. Their posts are performing well. They're resonating with a certain audience. Likewise, with the Labour Party, their content seems to be resonating organically and is being shared by a number of people too, which is the same. So those are the two parties that seem to be doing really well there. What's big this time round in this election is so-called micro-targeting. So money is being spent by parties, but they're spending it almost on a postcode by postcode basis. So where I am in Wiltshire, we're in, I think the constituency now is called South Cotswolds, and it's a bit of a dust-up between the Conservative Party and potentially the Lib Dems here. Obviously all parties are standing, but you've got the dust-up between those two parties. And I'm seeing an awful lot of activity from the Lib Dems on social media feeds. So all of the parties have got some skin in the game here, and they're all using social media to advertise and trying to get their message across to people they think can still be influenced to change their mind on their vote.